Yeah, we had it was a march today, march and pray on the 9 that me and my wife and our nonprofit participated in. And one of the prayers was, how do we save our community? And I feel that before we come up with that question of how do we save, we have to know where we came from and how it happened. And for me, it's called subtle neglect. It's the kind of neglect that happens when you are not truly aware of what is happening, what you're doing. And it happens with children when you're talking about age 8, 9, 10, going into teenage. This is when they are most impacted with the world around them, their surroundings. And for parents, we tend to step back when we should be stepping forward. You know, it's when we tell, Tommy, you walk to school, or your daughter, you can take the bus. It's when you say, okay, well, I don't have time to cook breakfast, when they like that intimate time to be able to talk with their parents at the table, and you rub it off as, okay, you can make your own meal, go ahead and do that, or grades come in, and instead of giving them accolades of greatness when they bring in an A or B, we'll concentrate more on the F and blow the F up this large, and all the other grades are just okay. They're just A, B's, and C's. We emphasize on the bad ones versus the good ones, and then what that does is put little wedges in between the relationship. And then after they pull away, then, instead of you questioning why they're pulling away, you tend to turn your back and go in your direction. Your job is a priority. What's going on in your life is a priority. And things like when I was growing up, my parents and most parents seeded within their children goodness. They sowed words of encouragement in their children constantly. It was not, you're just like your daddy, da-da-da. It's more of, even when you're bad, you're good. Come here. You're smart. You good. You got it in you. It was always a word of encouragement from the parents in my generation. Everybody wasn't perfect, but there was a majority of them doing that. And then we had I call them Mother Jacksons. So I used to look out the window, and watch over the children. And I'm gonna tell your parent, especially if you were one of the little bad kids, and in the midst of her watching over the kids, even when she took the time to pass out cookies and candy, she would also pull that young woman or young man in too. They got treats also, but what it does was, the community was an added blanket of protection for all of us. No child was going to be left astray to just go out here and get into stuff. It was always kind of a 3-layer situation for the community, and that being the extended parent. That's your neighbors and people who knew you, who always watched over the kids, the community themselves, the Miss Jacksons watching over, and support. And then the police were somewhat of a layer because they extended their time into schools. And I grew up with the Officer Friendly program, where the police officer would come into the community, come into the school, and he would talk with the kids. He would, see the kids face to face, and ask questions, and they were allowed to ask questions of the officer. And then you seen a variety of officers, and a lot of them were white. So they would have small conversations, and a young man could speak, candidly about things that they like, and if he had children and stuff like that, and the officer will tell them what his children liked and what they did, and it was a relationship builder. So when the officer seen these young men and young women growing up in the community, and they seen the officers themselves, it was more of a wave of hello versus a fear. It was a level of respect versus being intimidated by the officer. So all these relationships from the parent, from the community, and from policing were severed as things progress. The mothers and as parents back then their emphasis wasn't on how beautiful they were. It was their priority were the children. Take care of the children, invest in the children, and that right there is the reason why I'm sitting here. Because my mother spoke certain things into my life as I was as a young man. I was told, you're smart. You're my man. You're my baby. Da da da. Even when I was a butthole, she's continued to invest these words, these seeds into my life. Within the school system, I had a teacher named Miss Blade. Miss Blade was a Caucasian, young, thin Caucasian woman who had long hair, and she used to braid her hair in 2 braids on the side. And she had this vest that she always loved, real psychedelic, with daisies and flowers on the front. And then she used to wear these bell-bottom jeans, with the design on the side and stacks. Those were shoes. And one day I was just acting up in school. I'm running through the hallway, and I think I touched a girl on her behind as a dare, and got kicked in the groins. So I'm laying there, in pain, and she came over. She's like, "Kennedy, get up. You're better than that." And I got up, and she grabbed my hand. She took me to her room. This was, I think it was at lunchtime. And she pulled my desk right alongside of her desk. And she said, "From now on, you're gonna come here with me and you're gonna help me grade these papers." So she started that. She would give me a certain grades, and she'd grade them, I'll stack them up and put them into a pile and put the clamp on them and then put them into a box. And then after we finished every day, she would take a star and she would put it on a piece of paper, and she would just slide it in her desk, And I wasn't, paying attention of, how many stars were on there. So it was like maybe about 30 days later, we finished it, and, she said, "I got something to show you." And she pulled this folder out of her desk, and it was all these stars, just covered with stars. And I looked at it, and it was amazing to me, just seeing that I had did this. That day changed my life because it just showed me what my efforts could produce. Just little old me did all of those stars, and it changed me. And those are what I'm saying, subtle neglects, things that you feel that are okay to just let slip by, but after it piles up, after years and these children are growing, they separate, and before you know it, their family, immediate family, loses its luster, and now this outside family of kids just like them come together, and they don't have a lot of them don't have the morality that a traditional family would have. They're more carnal about what they do and how they do things, and they don't have as much love for man or other people. And when they get into cliques, and you add the substance of drugs activity and selling drugs and other bad activity, you get what we got out here in the streets now. You get the violence, and it's no way of stopping it unless we reconnect them individually back to the source of family, community, and even the relationships of policing. Policing has changed. And if it does not go back to that tradition of building a relationship with the young children growing up, this is only going to continue. If parenting or people in general don't start looking at young people as who they were. They made mistakes, but we extended ourselves to young people and showed them their way. Hey, if a parent is pulling her child down the street and she's having a problem of how to quiet a child, why not step to her as a mother and extend a helping hand? We have to bring them back into the family of extended family, community, and let them be a part of this. They feel alienated, for one, and when you feel alienated, you don't want to step out. You don't want to be friendly because they're not being friendly to you. So that's how we get these young people back connected, and we stop violence, bringing them back into the fold of family, bringing them back into the fold of community, and for policing extending themselves past just a job. We have to show these young people that you're a person, and you have to come into the school system, and you have to look into that young 8-year-old young man and let him know who you are and who your family is. And you have to listen to his aspirations of what he wants to become when he becomes an adult. So when he sees you out into the streets as an officer, he's respecting you versus fearing you. That's how we get it back. That's how we cure violence.